the manipulation that would happen and the reaction that Nicholas Hoult would give to such a ridiculous Nicolas Cage performance. So good. Like I think he was by far the standout of the movie.
I still really, really like the movie, but it was just in terms of when I compare the first half and the second half, I just noticed massive differences.
And I take full charge of my life today.
It's insane, right?
Art the Clown.
I'm something different.
Welcome back, friends, to another Modern Horror Movie Talk. I'm your host, Tyler Nichols, and we have a guest today. And if you watched the last episode, you'll know that I am very iffy with saying his last name, so I'm going to let him introduce himself. Kier, take it away.
Hello, my name is Kier. My last name is pronounced Gomes. A lot of people think it's Gomez, so it's okay if that's what you thought. I think it's Portuguese. I'm not sure, but it's Gomes like Holmes with a G.
See, that's why you were super white, so I was like, I don't think it's Gomez.
It's fun. I live where I live too. Most people would assume it's Gomez. We just have, I live right near the border of Mexico. So it's a very common mistake. People make it all the time.
That makes sense. But I don't know if you saw the last episode, but I realized literally on camera of like, oh no, I don't know how to say Kier's last name.
I caught that. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah.
Well, I figured may as well just be honest with you and the viewers where I'm like, God, just call it out. But so today we have a fun one, and that this is a movie I've been looking forward to ever since it was announced. But before we even get into that, Kier, what you drinking?
I have local beer. This is from Arizona, Dragoon IPA.
Oh, I've had that.
It's so good. I love it so much. It's very crisp. So,
are you an IPA guy?
Yeah, I sometimes I'll lean towards other stuff. Kind of depends, I think, on the season. But when it gets into the warmer seasons, I love a nice crisp IPA. Yeah,
I'm right there with you. I'd like IPAs most of the time of the year, but again, if you've been watching the show, you probably know Oberon has been my beer of choice for the last few weeks and will be for quite a while. As a matter of fact, I had an Oberon while watching this movie last night, and it was incredible. So cheers to that, and cheers to some Nicolas Cage insanity.
I am Dracula.
I don't want to get into it quite yet in terms of Renfield, because I think with Nic Cage, we got to know, like, what's your history with Nic Cage, because everyone has a different history with him.
That's very fair. I am a Nic Cage supporter. As you can see, I brought out the pillow specifically for this. I enjoy Nicolas Cage as exactly what he is. I think that recently with the big resurgence of him just becoming kind of a pop culture meme, I think is probably well suited to him. But even before that, I think movies like Face Off were kind of life changing for me. So I've always enjoyed Nicolas Cage in his element. I love seeing him getting to chew the scenery. I love seeing him get to be whatever it is that he's trying to be for his, specifically, I think movies like Matchstick Man. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
That's a movie that really solidified my love for Nicolas Cage, because I just feel like that's somebody who knows how to take advantage of having the ability to play around, so I love him personally. I'm a Nicolas Cage supporter.
There is nothing that bugs me more than seeing a actor just phone it in and just go through the motions. And I have never once seen Nicolas Cage phone it in. He is absolutely incredible, which, I mean, you mentioned Face Off, and from, I think it might have been the same year, Con Air. Those two movies, it's like one of the best double features that you can have.
It's a strong shot of Nicolas Cage, that's for sure.
So good. That hair, amazing.
Yeah.
There's always been this thing with him where he was appreciated in the 90s, but then that kind of went away and he kind of became a bit of a joke. But thankfully, and I would really say that Mandy really helped with his career resurgence, and then Pig really solidified it in terms of, holy shit, Nic Cage is back. And he's just been on such a roll since, and he's continuing it here so well, because he always is just so goddamn interesting in everything that he does. Even
cannot look away.
Can't look away. I've been doing this thing lately where I'm going back and watching some old Nicolas Cage movies that I hadn't seen during his like the Lost years. Ooh. So knowing Next, all of like that era, Ghost Rider, had never seen like Ghost Rider. Oh my God. This is Nic Cage just like trying his damnedest.
I have to say, I hate Next as a movie. I can't stand that movie, but I don't have a problem with Nic Cage in that movie, just the movie itself. But Ghost Rider, I revisited for my Marvel show, and I kind of love Nicolas Cage in that movie. I kind of fully believe that he's a weird guy who drinks Mike and Ike's out of a martini glass. You know, who else can do that?
He pulls off everything, every weird eccentricity, every strange coupling, everything just works because it's Nic Cage.
Yeah, he fully commits, I think.
Fully commits, and it's just fully believable. And I love that about him so much.
I agree. That's what I love about him.
And I think that it's just amazing that he has had such a great resurgence lately, because I'm sure you've seen it, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh, yeah.
It just seems to also show that he is aware of all the Nic Cage stuff, which just kind of makes me like him even more. The press tour for this film, it seems like he is having the time of his life. And I mean, well, let's just get into it. Renfield, Dracula's henchman and inmate at the lunatic asylum for decades, longs for a life away from the Count, his various demands, and all of the bloodshed that comes with them. So obviously we're not going to get into spoilers at first. We'll have a little non-spoiler section and then get into spoilers later. So non-spoilers, what'd you think? Of course, I say that right when you take a drink.
That was my fault. I knew it was coming. I really, really enjoyed Renfield. I knew I was gonna like it. I think the trailer kind of sold me. Even the poster I thought was, it told me that I was gonna enjoy the movie. But I would say I knew 10 minutes in, like, I'm gonna love this movie. I already know that I'm enjoying it. I already know what I'm in for, and it was still surprising. By the time I got to the end of it, I was like, I loved that movie. So I would say it was. I knew it was gonna be good, but it was still a surprise of how good it was.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that I have a little more of a negative slant to it, just in that I love the first half so much. The first half is like one of my favorite movies of the last few years in how it just unfolds at such a breakneck pace, and it's so interesting and entertaining. But then right around the halfway point, it then starts to get a little stereotypical and formulaic, which I kind of expected just given the story that they were trying to tell. But that aspect kind of dragged it down for me. But again, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me to dislike the film. I still really, really like the movie. But it was just in terms of when I compare the first half and the second half, I just noticed massive differences.
So that was actually the first note that I made when I left the movie, and I started just jotting down the things before I forgot. And the first thing I wrote was that the first half was very strong, and then it took a while for me to get re-engaged in that second half. I think by the end I was back. I think a lot of that third act really saved it. And but yeah, the first half to me was definitely the strongest piece of the movie.
It's so good, and I really like Nicholas Hoult. I've always really enjoyed him, and I don't know how, but I guess I just stayed away from stuff like regarding this enough. I had no idea that Ben Schwartz was in this movie.
I didn't either. I had no clue until I saw him, and I was like, whoa, what? I thought it was a cameo the first time I saw him in the movie. I was like, maybe that's the only part. But
as soon as he showed up, I knew exactly what his character arc was going to be, because it's so perfect for Ben Schwartz, because he just
Teddy Lobo.
Yeah, he has such a, like, I don't know, familiar quality to him. So I liked so much about him in that. I mean, we have to remind the viewer that's Sonic. Like, Sonic is essentially killing people and like holding a bunch of cocaine in this. And
I would say he's kind of, in this movie, he's kind of the perfect mix of like Chris Mintz-Plasse and Kick-Ass. You know, the son of a mafia don.
Yes.
But then he's also got that Ben Schwartzness that just penetrates through that character, and then you can see all of the little. You could just tell the dude was having the time of his life, like playing this part with the tattoos and just he was great in this movie. And
such inspired casting too, because he's always so nice. How do you ever see this guy and think he can play a bad guy? Yeah, he does awesome. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it was a very interesting thing for him, but I'm so glad he was in it. I thought it was going to be a small role when I first saw him. I didn't know he was in the movie at all. And then I was like, okay, this will be like a fun cameo. He'll have this one hilarious scene. And then, I mean, obviously it's a full arc. He's in the entire movie.
Yeah. And I enjoyed him, and I really enjoyed too, because I know she's divisive in that, like, Awkwafina, some people don't like how over the top she is. And I think in here she's not. She plays it much more straight. And so I would say that if you are one of those people that don't like Awkwafina, I think you could still like this character and be along for this movie, because the character doesn't feel like all of her other characters.
I like Awkwafina personally. I don't like it. It doesn't bother me that she's a little bit obnoxious, but I do think in this movie, because she was so subdued and the character that she was playing was a little bit more, it had to be serious, just, but and so I enjoyed the casting overall. I think that, like, for a movie this weird, it kind of reminded me of Kick-Ass, and I feel like the casting was very strong in Kick-Ass as well, and it kind of gave that same flavor.
Honestly, when watching the movie, I didn't once think of Kick-Ass, and as soon as you mentioned it, it's like, that's all I can see now. There's so much Kick-Ass influence.
Yeah, who directed this? Was it Chris McKay?
Yes, Chris McKay.
Lego Batman movie, Chris McKay.
Oh, that's why I recognize the name. Yeah, I didn't even, because again, I've been staying away from so much stuff with this, and yeah, I recognize the name, but I didn't even know what it was from. That's amazing. He's come quite a long way.
Yeah, when I saw it at the end, I was like, no shit. No shit, because I didn't know who directed it going into it.
Yeah, and it's great too that Robert Kirkman wrote. Like, there's just a lot of people involved where I'm like, wait, what? Really?
Very solid. Yeah, really solid team to make this movie. I expected it to be good, but then you look at everything after you see it and you're like, wow, this was always going to be good.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to think, in terms of a non-spoiler negative that I have, the sister, as soon as the sister showed up, I wasn't a fan and just didn't like her line readings in like any way whatsoever. I don't know if it was just me or
I just didn't understand. I didn't understand why she was in the movie. I feel like she didn't really need to be there. They could have not had her. And, other than I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like there could have been characters that were already in the movie to serve that same purpose as the sister.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the movie definitely has a little bit of an issue with not wanting to go too dark at times, where it kind of wants a happy ending with everything, which I don't think fully works. But I mean, the sister in general just is, I think her line readings are very strange, and it might just have something to do with the fact that, the character just feels very pointless, and I don't know. I just didn't understand much with her. Holy crap. Look how much sweat I've got going on. Holy hell. Apologies for my glistening skin, everybody. It is so hot in this room.
I was just thinking the same thing about myself. I was like, I hope you can't see it. Hopefully the lights are helping hide it. But dude, yeah, it's hot in here.
If anything, the lights are just making it worse for me, because then it's just making my hair more frizzy and like more sweat on my forehead. So I was like, I have to call this out.
I can't really tell. So hopefully,
can't really tell on Zoom. I'm going to have this nice HD video on.
Oh, true. Yeah. In 1080p, I'm sure you look a lot sweatier.
I think that there's just too much to talk about in terms of stuff that people would be considering spoiler filled. So overall, final non-spoilery thoughts on the movie.
I have my issues with it, but we need to be in spoilers, I think. Well, I will say this is a non-spoiler, I think. There was some CGI blood that was very distracting for me.
Yes.
Especially towards the end. It was very distracting. And almost to the point of I rolled my eyes a few times. I was like, no, like you have to have seen what that looked like. But everything else, every other negative I have, I think is in spoiler areas. So
yeah, and I would agree with that. They go a little too far with the CGI blood. They do some arm rips and like just general dismemberment that doesn't hit quite as hard because there's just too much CGI with it, which sucks because I almost guarantee that it was done practically and then just had CGI enhancements, because that always ends up being the case.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, I'd say overall, non-spoiler, I still really, really enjoyed it and would highly recommend going to the theater to see it because I think it's a blast.
I second that motion.
The thing that I wanted to talk about so much that I think that we just, as much as it occurs in the first couple minutes, I still think that it's just so cool to experience yourself. Them recreating scenes from the original Dracula.
My favorite part.
Same.
So good.
And like getting to see Nic Cage emulate Bela Lugosi.
Yes.
It was amazing. I'm a huge Dracula fan. The original Dracula is just I love it. I even read the book. It's just one that's always really stuck with me, and especially the Bela Lugosi version. So then the fact that they're showing Cage in this role, they're showing Nicholas Hoult as Renfield, and you can just see the twinkle behind Nic Cage's eye and how much fun he's having.
It's like, I swear to God, you could see that he was going, this is my lifelong dream. I'm getting to play Dracula. And he was fully on for it. Like he was, I love when it cut into it. The first thing I noticed was like the song playing behind it was really good. And I don't know, I think it was, probably just part of the score. I don't know if it was an actual track, but it was so good. And then seeing the film, it kind of gave me that feeling of like, I don't know how to explain it other than it gave me the feeling of watching a real Dracula movie, which I kind of was not expecting to get from this movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and especially we'll talk about it a little later, but beforehand they had a trailer for The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is, for those that are unaware, that's actually is it a chapter or a part from the original book?
Yeah.
And it's incredible. It's about Dracula's journey from Romania to London, and it's fantastic in how it's set up. The trailer is fucking phenomenal. Again, we'll talk about that later. But then the fact that the trailer played before this movie, and then we get to see essentially a little bit of it, it just added so much to it. Where I'm like, I don't think I've ever been to a movie where the trailer, they show a trailer that then makes the film better.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about that, but you're right, because it has that. I mean, it's all kind of that Bram Stoker's Dracula. It complements it. It's almost like getting an appetizer that makes sense with your meal. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I think that probably enhanced it for me too.
Every single time Nic Cage showed up, I was having an absolute blast, because he was having a blast, and it was so evident when they show him after he's all in his completely like disheveled state where he's essentially just a corpse. It is one of the funniest things, where he's just like, his skin is peeling off. And I, again, apologize to viewers that I'm not going to be able to show a bunch of clips in this, because obviously the movie just came out. So I would love to be able to show you his skin like peeling off, but just not going to be able to.
It was gnarly though.
It looked so cool. And he was in it so much more than I expected him to be.
Same. I thought from the trailers, I thought he was going to be kind of I don't know, just kind of a background overarching character.
Yes.
And I love that every time we see him, he's a little bit healthier. I kind of loved that, like, you'd see the gnarly skin, the corpse, he's bald, his ears are falling off, he's gnarly. And then 10 minutes later, when there's another scene with him, he's a little bit better looking, still ugly, still, whatever. And then I love that it implied that between these meetings with Renfield, he's feeding and he's getting healthier. And even though you don't see it, I think that there's a lot of there's a lot of fun to be had, that every time you see him, you're like, how's he going to look?
Yeah. And they seem to establish that it takes a lot for him to reheal, because they show him hooked up to all these blood bags, and like Renfield's bringing him bodies, and yet he's still not fully healed.
He needs a bus full of cheerleaders That's what he
Yeah,
needs.
I like that that got brought up a couple times, and then they actually show that was one of my favorite moments where because
The nuns.
yeah, he wants nuns and he wants a busload of cheerleaders, and then Renfield's hanging out, and it shows the nuns and a busload of cheerleaders.
I loved it too. I also thought that the narration from Nicholas Hoult was like a nice touch, because sometimes I think that can get a little bit distracting, especially when you have a movie like this that it gets going immediately. So it kind of needed, I think, that narration to kind of keep you level with everything going on. But I just love the random little, like, you got to be fucking kidding me in the narration, just the little internal dialogue or monologue, I guess, that I don't know, it added to it. I think the cheerleaders and the nuns, when he's at the bar, that was probably, for me, I would say that was like the turning point. After that, I think the movie slowed down a little bit, but that scene was so incredible and so much fun, and the lighting and the colors, just everything about that scene was so good.
And then the battle, like the little fight at the end of it is so cool too.
And the meet cute with Awkwafina afterwards was amazing.
Yeah, they do such a good job. And it's funny you mentioned that then right after that it slows down for you, because I would agree, because that's actually when the sister is introduced.
Yes.
I bought a small notebook to bring into the theater so that I could take notes. And that was one of the first things that I said was, ooh, I think the sister is my first bad moment, is what I wrote.
My first bad moment. That's a good way to describe it, I guess.
Yeah, because everything else worked so well until that point. And so that, I don't know, that aspect is upsetting, because they almost nail it so well, where I was, after that first like 25 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, are we dealing with like a 9 out of 10 movie here? This is fucking phenomenal. But then, I mean, again, it just gets very formulaic, which I don't mind when things get formulaic, but sometimes I want just a little bit more, especially when the first half seems to be a little more elevated than that.
I was expecting, I'll kind of second that, and I'll kind of challenge it too, because I was expecting, I mean, I guess my first impression of the movie was so strong, just because, I mean, there's not even an opening title sequence. It's just, it starts and it's going. That I think anything would be disappointing that doesn't keep that same pace. But I think that, like, for me anyway, where it does get formulaic, I think is kind of nice, because for people that maybe aren't sold on the idea of Dracula or Nicolas Cage as Dracula, it does kind of have that room to breathe, where there's a few scenes that are definitely slow and kind of cliche, but then they add little, like, for example, I almost thought that I wasn't gonna like Dracula's kind of confrontation of the Codependence Anonymous meeting, because I saw some of it in the trailer and it looked a little silly to me, and it also kind of looked a little bit like, like the dialogue even in that scene where he's like, some people call me the Dark One, some people call me this, and I was like, well, don't do an impression of a much more serious Dracula here. But it kind of, to me, ended up working out, because Nicolas Cage somehow made it feel like only Nicolas Cage could have been in that room doing that. I think he saved the formula from being boring, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think that some of those lines may not have worked if it was anyone but Nic Cage saying them.
I definitely don't think some of them, I think maybe were improvised, even, because you could hear a little bit of Nic Cage coming through, and I think that it's easier. Like, I loved his accent. I also loved that there was certain points where the false teeth were causing him to not speak clearly. I don't know if you noticed that, but some of it I was like, I might need subtitles for this, but I kind of liked that.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think, again, because it's Nicolas Cage, I kind of found some of that stuff to be like special, I guess.
Yeah, and he gives there's this moment where he finds out that Renfield betrayed him, and he comes to Renfield's studio apartment, and he gives them this great "you're the monster" kind of speech of like, that no, you're not one of these people, you're still a monster, you've still killed all of these people for me, they would still lock you away. I liked that, because again, it's him, it shows the abusive relationship, and it shows that, he's still messing with Renfield's head. And I think that's the biggest thing about this movie is how much it hits you on the head with it a lot, but that it's about abusive relationships. And so I think that there's going to be, oddly enough, I think there's going to be couples that go and see this movie that then break up because of it.
My wife and I were actually talking about that.
Hopefully not for you.
No, of course. Yeah, I should have prefaced with by saying not for us. Yeah, but I do think so. I also I've been on this kick lately when I watch movies, especially when I go to the theater, where I'm not watching trailers for certain, like I'll watch maybe the first one and then I'll try to avoid everything else because I want to go into it and go, I just want to see what I see and see what I get from that. And I kind of took some of what I saw as not necessarily a theme of, I mean, there was definitely the theme of toxic relationships and manipulation, but I think also there was a little bit of grappling with depression. Like Dracula was depression incarnate, you know, and kind of just that negative voice in your head that tells you, you suck, you know, you're not a hero. You're not just, your colorful sweater isn't fooling anybody, you know? And I kind of enjoyed it, thinking of it more as a metaphor for like, this is somebody struggling with their own demons or their own cringy past or whatever little thing keeps people up at night. And I loved that. I think that kind of, to me, it also made some of the more formulaic stuff a little more meaningful, at least, you know, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They definitely do a good job of just making the film a little more surface level than you would think. And I think that is just a huge achievement because it's a movie about Dracula and you would think we've seen it a million times, yet it feels very fresh, feels very original, despite the fact that it borrows a million ideas, but it borrows them well. And I think they always say, what is it? Something about imitation, the best
form of admiration or something.
Yeah, best form of admiration is imitation. And yeah, they clearly do a good job of, I don't know, getting all of the Dracula-ness out there, where then I think that you're able to appease both people that are fans of Dracula and people that are just coming for a comedy. They do a good job of bringing all sorts of different people in, because that's always the thing that I have to remind myself is that, like, I'm not the audience for so many of these different movies. I like modern movies, but there's stuff where it's very clearly directed at Gen Z, which I'm not Gen Z. So, yeah. But I also appreciate that they're clearly trying to make connections with, you know, Universal horror films for the current generation. So I'll always be a fan of that.
Yeah, I think that's good too. I always forget that I'm not the new generation that's being catered to. And that sometimes does ruin my ability to really enjoy a movie. There's some movies that I think it's laid on so heavy that I forget, like, it's not a movie trying to be cool. It's just that's what's cool now. And I think this movie did give me a few moments of going, okay, well, I can see why this is like a modern take on Dracula. But then for the most part, I feel like, yeah, like it really honored kind of the things that people our age love about Dracula. The design of Nic Cage's Dracula, I thought was so fun because it's so classic. They really didn't take that many creative liberties, and I loved it.
Yeah, they did. I think they did a good job making it kind of a combination of both Christopher Lee and Bela Lugosi. But yeah, I couldn't agree. I can't say enough good things about Nicolas Cage in this movie. I think that he is just absolutely phenomenal.
I think Nicolas Cage was kind of that's the marketing for the movie, you know, is like we got Nicolas Cage as Dracula, so you know what kind of movie you're getting. But I also really appreciated that they didn't let that distract from Renfield being the real hero of the story. There was that scene where he leaves his codependents anonymous and goes to confront the ska boyfriend, which there was, I don't know about your audience, dude, when I went to go see it, there was maybe like 5 other couples at our showing. And like, that was it. Most of the theater was empty. But there were certain things where every single couple in the theater would laugh at certain things. Like, it was weird. I see movies all the time, and usually I don't see audiences as interactive as I used to. But this movie had people like laughing out loud or clapping at certain points, and there were so few of us. It was so strange. And one of them was Renfield goes to confront the boyfriend, and And the whole like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm not a hitman. I'm a friend of Karen or whatever. I think that's where I fell in love with Nicholas Hoult in this movie. He's so easy to love, like in The Menu, and even I don't like Warm Bodies that much as a movie, but like I think him in that movie is amazing.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. That's where it sold me on Renfield as the main character. And from there, I never felt like I lost him, even when he's with Nicolas Cage in a scene, which you would think Nicolas Cage kind of chews it and overbears it. But it's like he knows Nicolas Cage personally and just knew how to get comfortable with him because they were so good at being a toxic couple. It was so adorable. Some of the manipulation that would happen and the reaction that Nicholas Hoult would give to such a ridiculous Nicolas Cage performance. So good. Like I think he was by far the standout of the movie. And then Nicolas Cage, just kind of made it the epic, over the top fun that it was. And I loved it. I honestly, I feel like I'm gushing over it. I wish I had more, more hot takes on it other than like, I loved this movie.
Yeah.
I think the CGI blood was I have other negatives I think we'll get to, but the CGI blood was the only time where I was like,
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. The CGI blood just doesn't work, and they go so insane with just the CGI gore in general, because I knew going into it that it would be very bloody, but I didn't expect how much CGI there was.
There's so much, dude. There were some parts where it was like, it would have been better to not have blood at all, Yeah. There was a few things that really just, I don't know, really annoyed me. But I also think, I don't know how you are with fake blood in movies. I'm particularly not fond of it. Like, it bothers me, I think, more than the average person, just because like when I see it, I can't see anything else, No,
I am right there with you. I really hate fake blood, and I think it completely diminishes a film. So there's a cool apartment fight with Awkwafina and Renfield, but there's just like so much CGI, and I think the fact that it's in daytime then just shows the CGI more. So yeah, I wasn't a fan. Did not like that. Which whatever. Again, I feel like I'm getting into negatives, but it's not a huge negative. Like, I still love the movie.
Yeah, it's not enough to make me not like it, but I will say, for those that are sensitive to it, the new Hellraiser, that was something that kind of took me out of it a little bit. But this is, I would say, on the scale, a little bit worse than that in terms of fake blood. But the other negative I had, this is a little bit more of a spoiler, and this it's not even really, I guess, a negative, but I was a little bit turned off by how easy it seemed for them to defeat Dracula by the end. I wanted a little more effort, a little more sexiness, I think, than what we got. It seemed a little bit abrupt, which is weird because the movie was so fast already, but then it slowed down. And I think that maybe some of that time could have been used to flesh out how they, like, a plan of attack rather than, I love the cocaine circle. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I do love that they were like, hey, we could just torture him, and at least make it really hard for him to come back. I loved a lot of that, but I also felt that a lot of it, I don't want to say it felt unearned. It just felt a little bit like, oh, that's happening already. And I don't know about you, but like, to me anyway, that was a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, it goes very quick. It's like, what this movie's like, just on the other side of 90 minutes. And
it's short.
They definitely rush it in the third act. But I also think that like we've had it pretty well established as to how to stop Dracula. So I do like too that they kind of set up early on that circle, and I kind of even forgot about it by the time they brought it back. So I did enjoy that, because I actually was waiting for Awkwafina to like stake him
before she opened the shutters or whatever.
The shutter. Yeah, I thought she was gonna stake him. I thought that was the whole.
Because even the camera reveals the stake in her belt, so it makes you think she's going to reach behind herself, and grab it. I thought that was interesting too. I kind of just expected that, and then I also, the thing with the shutters. Maybe this is actually, I know this is a small thing, but I don't know if you thought about this. I don't really understand. She hit the button and it didn't work, and then it did work
just later.
Yeah, like there was just like an inexplicable delay, which is fine. I'm sure that's how it really would happen. But like, there was like a fake out, but then it wasn't a fake out. It did work, I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. That kind of thing bugs me. And
It's weird.
But I did really like when Cage is dying, the whole "Hail Satan" and his like crazy scream.
That was, if you want to talk about things that remind you of Kick-Ass, that was the same energy as when he was dying in Kick-Ass. It was that same like, cha, you know.
Yes, he says he has like the same intonation. Yeah,
he does it in Mom and Dad too a couple times. If you remember, did you see that movie?
Yes, I did not like it.
I didn't either. That's one of those movies that it was in one ear and out the other. By the time I was done with it, I was like, fuck that movie. You know?
Yeah. Yep. I completely agree.
But he does do that scream though when he's struggling to build the pool table or whatever.
And I like too that they establish how fucked up it is to return from the dead.
Yeah.
Because they bring back all of the whatever codependency people that were at the meetings that were seemingly killed by Dracula. They like bring them all back, which I didn't mind that. It was what I was saying earlier, where it's like them trying to have a happy ending.
It was kind of one of those things where when it first cut to that final scene, I was like, how is this happening? You know, because also I was confused as to like how much time had passed, I guess, because I was like, did they go back? I know he had like the jug of blood or the bucket of blood, but like I was confused at first when he was back in that group. I was like, did they forget that all of these people are dead? It took me a while to be like, oh, okay. So at some point he came back and saved everybody, which I was fine with also. I was, I liked the whole group. I thought was funny. Carol, I thought was like a fun, small character that she never got to tell her story because Renfield would crash the party every single time. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I liked all the characters though. I don't know if you watch Ghosts on NBC, but I love one of the guys, the main guy that runs the meetings is on Ghosts, and so anytime I even see him, that's immediately what I think of.
Yeah, that dude looks so much like my cousin. It's so weird. Every time I see him, I'm like, wow.
I was kind of surprised that they didn't do posts, unless I missed, and this was like post credit scene. But I was shocked they didn't do some kind of like tease for Dracula coming back, even if it was like the weird concrete ice cubes moving, like just something. I just kind of expected because I stayed. I was like, oh, they're gonna do something.
Yeah, everybody in my theater stayed too, which is so funny, dude. Like, do you remember before post-credit scenes? I like to watch the credits anyway because sometimes the credit sequences are a work of art. I love, as you know, I love making credit sequences or credits in videos, and I thought the credits were amazing. The old timey kind of, I wasn't expecting a post credit scene. I was hoping, like maybe that we'd get exactly that, a tease for like Dracula's coming back or Van Helsing gets introduced. And it's just this new, cinematic universe of old time, but
I just assumed that one guy at the beginning was Van Helsing and that he just got killed. They have like the vampire hunter with the priest.
Oh, yeah.
Because the priest explodes, and then the other vampire hunter is like, Renfield, what have you done?
I didn't even think, this is gonna sound so amateur. I didn't even think about that as Van Helsing. I was like, it's probably just some dude with the church, the governor or something.
I just assumed because they said it was the last vampire hunter. So it's like,
it would have Van Helsing. Then. Yeah, it'd be weird if it was anybody else then.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, I feel like we pretty much have covered it. I'm looking through my notes. Like, I think there's, the ska thing. I
thought that was funny as hell.
Yeah, I enjoyed that line, but otherwise, that's really the only thing.
I have one other thing.
What's that?
That I had in my notes. The color grade and the lighting of this movie was, I think, way better than it needed to be to make this movie good. It was so shadowy and neon and just so great. Kind of had the same color wheels, I would say, as like the Munsters, the Rob Zombie Munsters, but done with a better movie. yeah,
done with a little more style than just very flat shots. I agree.
It was a very good looking color.
Yeah, the whole movie looks just fantastic. There's a lot of really good shots, and especially with whenever they go into I think it's the French Quarter with where they end up having that big battle at the bar. I enjoyed that. I lived in New Orleans for a couple months, and so I liked.
No shit.
Yeah, we won't get into that. I hated it, but I would say we pretty much have covered it. What would you rate this film out of 10?
strong 8 out of 10 for me. I would watch it again multiple times, and I think I'd enjoy it.
Nice. I thought I would be at an 8 when, first half of the movie, but second half kind of brought it down. So I would say I'm at a 7 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it. Nicholas Hoult, Nicholas Cage, and Awkwafina all just nailed it. And I think this is going to be a movie that I throw on just to have fun because it's just a really good time.
Totally.
But that's really all for the Renfield talk. There was one thing I wanted to have a little brief discussion about. We would be doing a trailer reaction to this. However, we both already seen the trailer because we saw it at the movie last night. So, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. That trailer just phenomenal. It looks so good.
Yeah, dude. And I can't wait to see that movie, which I didn't even know was coming out until I saw the trailer. I've watched it a couple times since, and it's just an amazing teaser of what that movie could be.
Yeah, I've really like I've read the book, so unfortunately I know how it goes, but I am just really looking forward to what they do with it, the twists and turns, and I always like when a vampire is a monster, very clearly making him a monster.
Yeah, I think that's part of why I'm so excited. I think it wouldn't have worked as well if he looked like another sexy white dude as Dracula,
Yeah, we don't need any more of that. The Invitation was already done and done poorly.
I love the idea of a man bat. That's what I'm looking for, and that's what we're getting from the looks of it.
Yeah, it looks awesome, and the cast is really good. David Dastmalchian, and what's his name from Straight Outta Compton? The guy that plays Dre, he is in it. Looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't know that guy's name either. I don't think I've seen him in anything other than Straight Outta Compton.
But yeah, our boss Chris Bombre saw footage from CinemaCon last year and said it looks really, really good. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be awesome. But yeah, that's really all. I think we pretty much covered it. Next week, I will be covering Evil Dead Rise. So excited. And yes, I know you guys are probably like, oh wait, Pope's Exorcist came out this week. Don't worry, that will be covered. It'll be 2 weeks because obviously we got to do Evil Dead Rise when it comes out. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me, Kier. This was an absolute blast. And yeah, hope that you guys enjoyed the film. Hope you guys enjoyed the talk. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. What's your rating? And yeah, we will see you guys in the next video. Later.
Peace.